The laughter came first, sharp and careless, cutting through the cold morning air like it had every right to be there. It followed him across the concrete yard as he tightened the worn laces of his boots, a single father standing alone among younger, stronger men who believed this place did not belong to him. They saw the tired eyes, the cheap jacket, the quiet posture. What they did not see was the weight of a small child sleeping on his chest every night, or the years of pain that had trained his body in ways no gym ever could. This was the day everyone would underestimate him, and the day everything would change. Before the story truly begins, take a moment with me. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and hidden strength, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support keeps stories like this alive. His name was Daniel Carter, and at 39 years old, he was older than nearly every other recruit standing in the police academy yard. His hair had started to gray at the temples, his shoulders carried a stiffness that came from years of construction work, and his eyes held the kind of exhaustion that no amount of sleep ever fully erased. Daniel was not supposed to be here, at least not according to the whispers and sideways glances. Police tryouts were for fresh bodies and loud confidence, not for men who packed lunchboxes shaped like dinosaurs before dawn and practiced defensive drills in the dark while their children slept. Daniel became a single father 5 years earlier, on a night that shattered his life into before and after. A sudden illness took his wife in less than a week, leaving him with a 3-year-old son named Noah and a silence so loud it felt physical. The world did not pause for his grief. Bills arrived. Work demanded hours. Noah needed comfort, patience, and stability. Daniel learned how to braid tiny fingers around his own so his son could sleep, how to smile through tears, how to survive on 4 hours of rest and still show up the next morning. Strength became a necessity, not a choice. The idea of joining the police force came quietly, almost accidentally. One evening, after walking Noah home from school, Daniel witnessed an officer kneel down to talk to a frightened child involved in a minor accident. The gentleness in that moment stayed with him. Daniel realized he wanted to protect, to serve, to be the kind of presence that made chaos feel manageable. He wanted his son to grow up knowing his father stood for something bigger than survival. But wanting and being allowed were two different things. Training for the tryouts meant waking up before sunrise, running through empty streets, doing push-ups beside Noah's bed so he could hear his father breathing and not feel alone if he woke. Daniel trained not with anger, but with quiet determination. Every muscle memory he built was fueled by responsibility, by love. He did not chase strength to impress anyone. He chased it to endure. The tryout day arrived with clouds hanging low and heavy. Dozens of recruits gathered, laughing loudly, flexing muscles, sizing each other up like competitors rather than future teammates. Daniel stood apart, stretching slowly, conserving energy. When instructors announced the physical challenges, eyes immediately drifted to him, some curious, most dismissive. He was older. He was smaller than the tallest recruits. He did not look intimidating. The laughter returned when he struggled slightly during an early endurance drill, not because he was weak, but because he paced himself, breathing carefully, saving what he knew he would need later. The strongest recruit there was a man named Brandon Wolf, a former college athlete with a body built for dominance and a confidence sharpened by praise. Brandon thrived on attention. He laughed the loudest at Daniel, made exaggerated gestures, fed off the crowd's approval. To him, Daniel was an easy example of who did not belong. What Brandon did not know was that Daniel had spent years restraining panicked adults twice his size on construction sites, breaking up fights without throwing punches, relying on leverage, balance, and calm under pressure. The final evaluation was the combat assessment, designed to test control, technique, and decision-making under stress. Pairs were assigned randomly, but fate has a way of making statements. Daniel was matched with Brandon. A murmur spread through the yard. Some recruits smiled, expecting a spectacle. Instructors watched closely, curious rather than amused. Daniel felt his heart rate steady, not spike. This was familiar territory. Fear had visited him far worse nights than this. As the assessment began, Brandon charged with confidence, using raw power, assuming intimidation would be enough. Daniel moved differently, grounded, economical. Years of exhaustion had taught him efficiency. He did not waste motion. He redirected force rather than meeting it head-on. Within seconds, the balance shifted. Brandon's strength became his weakness as Daniel used leverage and timing, guiding momentum instead of fighting it. The laughter stopped. The yard went quiet, the kind of silence that follows surprise. In a matter of seconds that felt like slow motion, Daniel executed a clean takedown, controlled and precise, leaving Brandon stunned and pinned, unable to continue. It was not violent. It was disciplined. It was decisive. Instructors stepped in, eyes wide, exchanging looks that said more than words ever could. The strongest recruit had been neutralized not by brute force but by calm mastery. For Daniel, the moment was not about victory. As he released his hold and stepped back, he felt only relief. Relief that his body had responded. Relief that his training mattered. Relief that he had not let doubt win. Somewhere miles away, Noah was in school, unaware that his father had just rewritten how he was seen. The aftermath was quiet respect. No applause, no cheers, just a shift in energy. Recruits who once laughed now nodded subtly. Brandon avoided eye contact, humbled in a way that no insult could achieve. Instructors approached Daniel with new interest, asking about his background, his training, his motivation. Daniel answered honestly, never boasting, never minimizing. He spoke about responsibility, about patience, about protecting others because someone once protected him when he needed it most. The days that followed were harder, not easier. Expectations rose. Daniel pushed himself through pain and fatigue, injuries that would have sent others home. But every night, he returned to a small apartment where Noah waited with drawings taped to the wall and questions about superheroes. Daniel never told his son about the takedown. He told him about showing up, about doing your best even when others doubt you. When the final acceptance list was posted, Daniel's name sat firmly among the selected. He stood there for a long time, reading it again and again, not because he did not believe it, but because belief felt fragile after so many years of survival mode. That night, he cooked Noah's favorite meal and tucked him in with a promise that life could change, sometimes quietly, sometimes all at once. Daniel graduated months later, standing taller not because he had proven others wrong, but because he had proven himself right. He became known not as the man who took down the strongest recruit, but as the officer who stayed calm, who listened, who de-escalated, who understood fear. Because he had lived with it. His past did not disappear. It became his strength. Years down the line, Noah would attend his father's badge ceremony, clapping too loudly, eyes shining with pride. He would not remember the laughter, the doubt, the cold morning air. He would remember a father who never quit, who carried him through storms both visible and unseen. If this story moved you even a little, if it reminded you that strength is not always loud and resilience is often invisible, please take a moment to like, share, and comment on this video. Your engagement tells us these stories matter. Tell us in the comments what moment stayed with you the most. And as the screen fades and the story ends, remember this: sometimes the person everyone laughs at is the one holding the deepest power, forged not in applause, but in love, loss, and the courage to keep going.